Yes, yes. What's up, everybody? This is MC Till with Everybody's Hip Hop Label. Glad you are here. And if you are watching the live feed right now, we appreciate that. And you see some fellas that are back that have not been here for a little bit. And you see our most incredible guest tonight. So we're going to introduce her in just a moment. But I do want to welcome back the co-host, Profound, been out there on the football field coaching.
You know
Profound,
what?
welcome back, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well, brother. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Are you getting calls to, coach in the NFL or collegiate level yet?
I wouldn't say that, but we getting calls about a 12-year-old over here, man. This kid is pretty phenomenal. So we on our way to Texas in February to play.
Oh, right on, man. Is that like a tournament down there? Like a special
Tournament,
tournament?
actually, they selected my son as the starting quarterback for the All-Star team for Reno for the 12-year-old. So
Oh,
yeah.
go ahead, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Congrats, man. That's awesome, man.
So I'm just
That's
on the
great.
field helping him manage his emotions. I ain't like, you know, Bill Belichick or Bill Parcells. I ain't doing all of that. I'm just in his ear, like, get your crap together. You know what I mean?
Out there being a good dad. Well, welcome back, man. Glad you're
Appreciate it, man.
back.
I missed y'all, man.
Yeah, man. Missed you too. We also have back Marcus iomos Morad. What's up, iomos? How you been,
What's
man?
happening, brother? Chilling, brother.
Yeah,
What's
you
going on with you?
you written a few books yet, man? I know you've reading some books.
Right.
I'm reading a lot, but I haven't wrote nothing. I'm
It's all
going through
good.
books like water, bro.
I know you are, man. Well,
Yeah,
good,
man.
good to have you back too. And
So,
in one of my favorite T-shirts of all time, we have
Right.
Mr. Joe November is back on the program. What's up, Joe? How you been, man?
Good, man. Just dealing with this basketball injury. Broke my wrist a couple weeks ago, but I would be all right. I'll see y'all in
Man.
January.
Well, good to have you back.
trying to
I hope
live your hoop
you're
dreams. Trying to live out them hoop dreams, bro.
you got to do it. Was it worth it though?
It was like we won the game. And so,
There
I
you
took a
go.
charge, dude ran into me, fell down, broke my wrist, but we still won.
Right on,
Man.
right on. Well, right before I introduce our guest, I do want to say that if you are in Cincinnati and you've never checked out Everybody's Records, well, what's going on? What are you waiting for? Go check out Everybody's Records over in Pleasant Ridge. I'll go with you. Call me up. We'll go over there together. They got records, CDs, vinyl. They got all kinds of great, great selection of music and just weird music related stuff. So check them out online if you can't get here in the flesh at everybodysrecords.com. All right. Our guest tonight, simple and plain, is dope. Her accolades are numerous. She was hailed as, this is pretty dope, as one of 10 women who changed the hip hop game in Canada by Complex. That's super dope. She has numerous albums that are all dope that have been nominated. Some of them have been nominated for awards. She's toured with the best of them. She is an amazing artist who's also a parent, spouse, and much more. So we're going to get into all that right now with the one and only Eternia. Welcome to the show.
What up? What up? What up? That was hey, can you hear me? Can you see me?
Oh, we can hear you. We can hear you. We can
Okay,
see
cool.
you.
Yeah, that was really interesting to hear. I was like, that's me? Okay.
Yeah. All of a
Uh,
sudden you live life and you,
Thank you for the intro. Thank you for the intro. And thank you
yeah,
for
yeah.
having me on.
No doubt. Thanks for being here. You live life and all of a sudden you look back and you're like, wow, I've done a lot of stuff. Done a lot of
Right?
stuff. So yeah, for
Hmm.
sure. Now, going back a little bit, do you remember your first, or maybe I should say your earliest experience with hip hop?
My earliest memory is my brother, when I was under the age of 10. So that would be the 80s. I'm aging myself, and that's fine because we're all grown here.
That's right.
And yeah, my brother fell in love with hip hop first, probably, and brought it home, cassette tapes. What was he listening to at the time? Inappropriate stuff that we shouldn't have been listening to at that age. I always say stuff that a white kid in Canada could know about and get his hands on, which was pretty mainstream at the time, like Run DMC, um, LL Cool J, other stuff. But yeah, so he brought it home, and everything my brother did was just like we imitated him and we wanted to be him. He was like a god figure in our lives, and he was the man in my household. And so I started rapping then, and that's my first memory. I don't remember like the first moment,
Yeah.
because I was pretty young. But we used to make music videos. My father had gear before people had gear in the
Oh
80s.
wow.
Had like the big, huge cameras that broadcasters used to have. We had those, and we'd set them up on tripods, and we'd like literally make music videos where we're lip syncing. Yes, that's what I did in the 80s too.
That's the so your dad was supportive of this creative
My dad
outlet
was
you
like
had?
never around. He was a nightclub owner. This is when we visited him because like my mom and my dad weren't together. So this
Mm,
is what we did for fun when no adult was around. We just like just
Mm.
yeah.
yeah. Now was this in Toronto?
No, this would have been in Ottawa and
Oh,
Hull.
okay.
Yeah, no Hull if you know the area.
How was hip hop received in that area growing up as you were getting into it more and more?
It wasn't.
Yeah.
There were heads. It was really underground. Same thing I would argue for Toronto. Uh, I don't know when it became more of like I just felt like you had to have kind of like the secret passcodes and know what
Mm,
was going on, and you didn't know what was going on from radio or television, so you really had to be digging to know.
yeah.
For a long time in Canada, and then it changed around 1997. BET came to Canada. I don't remember what time or when MTV did, if it did, but that changed everything. But before that, there was a couple like college radio shows. There was maybe an hour here and there on TV. Much Music had like 30 minutes of rap a day and the mix on Saturday, which was
Nice.
or something. But nah, you really had to dig. You really had to.
Yeah.
For me, it was magazines mostly.
That's cool. Was there any people like, there's the Run DMCs and others that you mentioned like more mainstream, but were
Yeah.
there like local artists or
Yeah.
maybe not even artists, but just local people that inspired you and encouraged you to be like, yeah, you're dope. Keep on going.
I mean, it depends on what age we're talking about. So when I was really young, it was Kish and Maestro Fresh West.
Oh, Maestro Fresh West. Okay.
Yes, yes. Maestro Fresh West in the 80s was just I mean, yeah, I think for the longest time, if not to date, he sold the most rap records of a Canadian artist. For the longest time, he had that record.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Wow.
but Kish, I rhymed the world in 80 days. Shout out to Kish. He was like, I used to bump him in grade 5, pulling up to elementary school. For sure. And
Yeah.
and then when I was a little bit older in Ottawa, like there was local heads that really looked out for me, like DJ Benjamin in Ottawa, would really look out for me. He put me on the mic. He'd be DJing at a club. I was underage in the club. And he'd be like, rap every single week. You know what I'm saying? He'd give me the same beat, LL Cool J Rock the Bells. And I'd so yeah, there's numerous people, but when I was really young, these are the people that I remember, and there's more.
Yeah. Did you know like pretty early on, like I'm doing this, I'm going to be doing
I
this
was
for a
really
long time?
my siblings would tell you this, and anybody that knew me, I was really confident, probably overly confident from a very young age. I was just like, yeah, like to me, it was, you couldn't tell me nothing. Like, it was just like, yeah, I'm dope. And if you don't think I'm dope, then there's something wrong with you. It's actually like now when I think about my confidence level, I was like, first of all, it wasn't deserved. And where did that come from? I think I got it from my dad. He just had a lot of, yeah, whatever that is. But yeah, no, I think for the longest time since I was really young, I remember as soon as I started rapping, I didn't want to do anything else. So before I started rapping, I was writing poetry, I was singing, I was writing songs, like singing songs.
Mm,
I started rapping, all of that stopped, everything, dancing, all of that stopped.
that's dope. That's
Yeah.
super dope.
What kind of dancing did you do?
I don't really know how to dance, but me and my cousin used to do these routines like to Janet Jackson. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
we're kids and we would like, and then all of our family and our aunts and our uncles, like if it was a holiday, say New Year's Eve or Christmas or something, they'd all gather around the living room and watch us do these dance routines to Paula Abdul and Janet Jackson. But I actually did not know what I was doing at all. So it's a good thing I stopped.
So I have a question about your music, and then I want to kind of steer more into some other facets of your life, and then come back around to your latest album, Free, which is really dope. Yeah, but musically speaking, like, the reason why you made like music initially, and the reason why you still make music, has the reason changed over the years, or maybe the motivation changed, or has it been about the same?
That's a good question. A little bit of both, column A and column B. I'd like to think it's changed. I want it to change because I don't know if the initial reason was good enough. the initial reason was really like processing. It was like therapy. It was very, I don't want to call it navel gazing, but it was very much like a way to, I mean, many of us use art forms and creativity for that purpose, you know, to take something negative and positively process it in a way where it's a positive output. And that was rhyming for me, and writing. Even before I wrote raps, that was writing for me, journaling stories, and then it became rhymes. And I was always a writer. And now it's like, well, I'm kind of sick of it just being about me processing my shit, you know, like I'm a little too old for that. Not to say that I can't do that, and I will, but I don't want it to just do that. And so, yeah, I would like to hope that, like, you know, the Almighty uses me for a higher purpose, but then maybe that is the purpose. Maybe there's other people relating to what I'm talking about. I struggle a lot. I talk to my husband about this a lot, with feeling like whatever it is I'm thinking or have to say is even worthy or relevant now of being heard. And he encourages me that it is. Yeah, yeah, there's a lot behind that, but I'm a little bit more, I want to be more thoughtful and contemplative and challenge myself more now when I write, instead of just being like, okay, what am I processing right now? Let me process it in a song, you know? Yeah, I gotta that.
Yeah, that's cool. I want to pause just for a second, see Pro or iomos, if you have anything you want to jump in, or Joe, before we switch subjects.
Long Shot texting me saying, "What up?"
What up, Long Shot? He was the one that really introduced me to Chicago hip hop.
Yep, I remember that.
Yep. Those are good memories. And I can't believe I didn't actually meet you, because we're on a track together. I just assumed, I was like, yeah, I met you. But then you were like, I actually never met you.
Nah, because you know, I was working. Well, I still am working. I work in healthcare, and I still do. So most of the time when Longshot was recording, he would record and everything he needed to do, and then I would be driving past the studio to go home and have to stop and drop my verses or track the beat out or whatever, like I did. So he had that. I had tracked that beat for him already. Then y'all laid it. Then he was like, I didn't know you was, I didn't even know, I hadn't heard of you before. And then he played it and I was like, man, who the hell is that? He was like, that's this white chick from Canada. I was like, get out of here, man. This ain't no white girl. And he was like, yeah. I was like, man, she is dope. And then I was like, man, I appreciate letting me get on the song. I just was producing the joint.
That the track was ridiculous. Your verse was ridiculous. That's a really good memory. That whole time in Chicago was such a great memory.
How did you meet Long Shot?
Warped Tour, Vans Warped Tour.
Okay.
I did Vans Warped Tour 3 years in a row. The years that I did were 2003, 2004, 2005. I would not recommend being a hip hop act on Warped Tour. It doesn't exist anymore from what I hear, but it was hard.
Yeah.
It was hard. Like, I wanted to shoot a documentary on like how much people there at the time did not want hip hop on Vans Warped Tour. So shout out to Adverse and Code of the Cuts for doing it anyways. Wow. We had the smallest tent, and we'd be competing with the biggest sound systems, like right beside our sound system, and it would all be punk rock, and we're like trying to rock. It was ridiculous. I used to call it going fish. Like, nobody would be in your tent when you started your set, and like I would go fishing. I'd be like, see how far the mic cord stretches outside the tent, and like just reel people in, and by the end, see how many people were in there. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah.
So they had hip hop on it, but they didn't want hip hop on it.
I think that obviously the organizers thought it was a cool tent to have. Code of the Cuts, Adverse, from Detroit. Well, is she Detroit or Lansing? Anyways, she organized it. But I think the people that attended, the kids, they were mostly teenagers. I was interviewing people because I was a journalism major. I was just like, yeah, so what do you think about hip hop at Vans Warped Tour? And 9 out of 10 people would be like, that. Like, we're not happy, you know what I mean? So it's like, I was gonna do a whole documentary, but yeah, no, it was good though. It was good. It was a boot camp for me. It was great. That's every cool. Tour after that was so much easier.
Wait, can you rewind just a bit? You were interviewing people?
Unofficially, it was just my own footage. Like, I thought I'd put something together and I never did. But yeah, I am a journalism major, and so I thought, let me just do a little documentary here, but we never finished it.
Well, are you still a journalism major now?
Well, I graduated, yeah.
Okay. I figured you graduated.
It is something that I have. I have a degree in broadcast journalism.
Oh, I got you.
Okay. That's dope.
That's dope. That's what I went to school for. Have a degree in, yeah.
Really, it's just because I'm curious. I ask a lot of questions. So I'm like, how can I get paid to ask a lot of questions? And that's
yeah. Did you find that the skills that you learned in having that degree were very helpful in just like all
Absolutely.
facets of your life?
Absolutely. Which is
Yeah.
why I always encourage people to go to school. I'm like, even if you don't get a job in what you went to school for, I promise you, just the process of doing it,
Yeah.
I'm talking about higher learning, just the process of doing it is going to be worth its weight in gold in whatever you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I found the studying journalism was so helpful because it's just like it prepared me and how to present myself and how to like look at people, and just like there was just so many skills that I've taken with me, everywhere.
Especially in the world of entertainment and hip hop and music industry. It's like, yeah, it's like one side and the other. You just know how to do both.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to switch gears here just a little bit because you had some music that you were putting out, dope, and then there was a gap of time where maybe 10 years, 11 years or so. And during that time, I'm curious to know what was happening. What were you doing, and what was happening in your life?
Yeah, you're referring to After At Last Before Free, I assume. Those are the two of
Yes.
them.
Yes.
What was happening in my life? There was like, I don't even know how to summarize that. There was a lot happening, but if I was going to summarize it in like a really short way, I'd say God was humbling me.
Mm.
That's what I would say in a short form. But I think that um I had like maybe developed an unhealthy relationship with my career and with hip hop and what it meant for me in terms of like validation and identity and purpose and just how much it meant to me. And hip hop was good to me. The culture was good to me. God was good to me. It's not like, but I think that I needed a reset, a little bit of recalibration. And somebody, I forget the quote, but somebody had said something like, oh, my 20s are this, my 30s are this, my 40s were that. My 30s were like just a lot of inward work that was not visible to the world and wasn't cool or successful or popular, nothing you could brag about. But I think there was a lot of work going on inside of my heart and my soul and my mind. And that's what was happening in that time, I'd say. And I also
Yeah.
did a whole bunch of cool, fun stuff, but that was the main thing.
Yeah, that's cool. And then at what point you had kids at some point? Was that more recent?
Yeah. So that would have been like technically the end kind of those 10 years.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's more recent. So I have a 4-year-old and I have a 2-year-old. I had to think of it.
You have your hands
Beautiful
full.
kids. Beautiful
Yes,
kids.
thank you.
I saw them on Instagram today. Yeah, very beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you.
They look
Yeah.
like a lot of fun.
They're
But
fun right now. They're fun. They're fun.
yeah. What was that transition like from, doing so
Hard,
much music to being a parent?
hard.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much you think you want something and you're prepared for something. I mean, I assume it's like this I assume it's hard for everybody, but maybe when you're older and you have kids, it's even harder because I view everything like organically, like plants. And so it's like, if you're like a young little seedling sapling and then like you learn to live life with someone else, you kind of grow together. But if you're like this oak tree, you know what I'm saying? And you're thick and you're wide and you're deep, and then you got to learn to do life with other people. It's different. And that's how I feel. I feel like I was like this oak tree that yeah, I think that it took me at least 3 if not 4 years to feel like I'm okay with being a parent and a wife. It was a struggle for the first at least 3 years if not 4 years.
Was the struggle more about like issues around identity, or was it more of just like, this is nuts, I don't know how I'm going to do this, I'm up late at night, it's just like physically draining, or a little bit of both?
Yeah, both. I felt like I am a good mom and I can be a good mom. I didn't question myself as a mom. I
Yeah.
think like identity, ego, being a wife was hard because I think I'm really good at doing one thing at a time. And so I'm like, I could be a good mom, but I can't be expected to also be a good wife. It's like that's way too much. Like, you know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
that was like a mind F for me. Yeah, I think there was a lot tied into it. Also, the lack of sleep, I'm sure,
Oh yeah.
and your world being so. I'm very much like a connected community person. My social calendar was always full, and people are like my currency of choice. I don't even mean to liken people to currency, but the thing that matters the most to me in life. And so, just going from that to like your world really small, that was tough too. Going from feeling empowered and having agency to feeling like you don't have much of any, like all that kind of stuff was tied in.
Yeah. I remember having kids and making a conscious decision that I'm just not going to go to any hip hop shows. I'm just not doing it. I will do it again in time later on, but right now it's just too hard to go to these shows late at night.
How long was that happening? Like where you just didn't?
Oh, it's still happening. My kids are 8 and 12,
Oh,
and
wow.
it's still happening. But I just gave myself permission, be like, the hip hop world is going to be just fine if I don't go to these shows. It's going to be fine, and I can go to
I
them.
heard something similar. Somebody was like, I just said to all my friends, like, see you in 10 years. And I was like,
Yeah,
that is not, I was like, that is unacceptable. Like, I was just like, in my mind, I was like, that's completely unacceptable. Like, I can't do that. Like, you know what I
yeah,
mean? But
yeah,
it's realistic, actually. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, for sure. I know Joe and Profound. You know the struggle of
Man,
parenting,
I
right?
was just
Oh
getting ready
yeah.
to, I was getting ready to ask because I know all of us except for brother Marcus have children, but he has
I'm
things
not
that we
having no
balance into.
kids, bro. I'm not
Man,
It's
I
for
because of
mean,
us he
all
ain't
the
having
reasons
none.
why y'all named it.
you,
I'm
bro,
not
that's the
having no
thing.
kids, bro.
That's the thing, sis. I wanted to ask you because when we did that song back, that was like what, 2007, 2006, something like that. I had really small children then.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was hard to balance that out because not only was I still heavily active in, recording and all in and out of the state, also doing healthcare. I also lived like an hour or so, or more than an hour away from where the studio was. So doing that, trying to balance that, trying to make sure you got enough rest to even make it home and not fall asleep on the road. My question to you is, do you feel if you're dedicating time to a song, do you feel like you're taking away from time with the children? I go through that. That's why I'm just wondering, is that something you deal with?
So I kind of have the opposite problem. That's everything's a complicated question and answer to me, but I think my husband would probably relate more, Mr. Liff. I think he would relate more to what you just said about like when he has to go out and make money and work, whether it be touring or whether it be his real estate career. He feels like, man, this is robbing me of time with my family. I'm the other side of the spectrum where like 99.999% of my time is with the kids. So I'm just like, anytime I can break out, I'm just like, deuces, don't miss them, have no shame. I'm just like I'm just like there was no robbing me of time with my children because my main job presently, and it is an honor and a privilege that some people can't afford.
Yeah,
My main job is being with them 24/7. Like when he goes on tour, and he always says he's really blessed to have a wife that's an MC, so she understands because like I'm like, yo, you get to rock a stage, go do that. You know what I mean? But when he goes on tour, I'm with them. I'm solo parenting. I solo parent. I don't know what a fair amount is, but I'm always with them. So when I get time away from them, which is rare-ish, I don't feel that way at all.
That's
and
a
I
good one.
and I feel like parenting is like the one, like anything else, like any job or like any other situation that provides so much like lack of sleep and frustration and disappointment and all these huge emotions. Anything else, like when you share it with people, people are like, oh man, that's terrible, I feel so bad for you. But with parenting, it's almost like people shame you because you're having because you're frustrated.
I used to have to quantify things in ways that made sense, not only for other people, but validated my own feelings. So I was
Yeah.
like, yo, like this is the one thing I used to always say. I'm like, if you were a French fry flipper at McDonald's, you'd have breaks, you'd have a lunch, and you'd go home and have a normal life and go to sleep. And then you'd wake up and then you do an 8-hour shift. I'm like, even the French fry flippers at McDonald's are given more human decency and expected to have breaks than we are. Like I'm just like compare me to that person and give me the same decency and respect and dignity that you've given them. Like, you know what I mean? Like I was just like, no diss to the French fry flippers. I'm just saying, like the most basic jobs, they are expected to have breaks. And
Yeah.
this is not a basic job. It's actually a very complex job. And yeah, the
Yeah.
no thing is definitely
There's labor laws for them. There's no labor laws for parents.
yes, exactly.
That's what we need.
That's what it comes down to, basically.
Yeah.
We need
So
some
I've
labor
had to
laws for
advocate for my
parents.
labor laws.
That's hilarious. You mentioned Mr. Liff. I'm curious, and I'm a big fan of Mr. Liff as well. And curious to know what it's like, being married to another, very creative, very brilliant, artist.
I think I'm still kind of wrapping my head around that a bit. What it's like. We're very different and we complement each other. I think we probably take for granted the fact that there's certain things that we understand because we're both artists, and stuff like touring or what you need to create a song or be creative, or like, not to interrupt someone if they're writing a rap or whatever. Like that's the simple shit. But I think on a greater level, what it's like to be married to him specifically is like he's kind of like this visionary outside the box thinker, whether it's music or other stuff, whether it's just life. And so it's just like he dreams so big and he makes stuff happen. And he's really much like, if something's not working for me, I'm not doing it. Like, and that includes things like just things that most people think are just a part of life. He's just gonna be like, no, that ain't gonna be a part of my life. You know what I'm saying? Like, just like break outside this box, whether it be living in the US or working 5 days a week or like what you name it, like whatever it is. He's like, nope, don't work for me. And so I think he's allowed me to think a lot more expansively and like because I've always been kind of like maybe I'm looking 6 months ahead max, like maybe like not even a year. Like I'm always just like day to day. I'm a day-to-day person and things get done, you know, but I'm very much more day-to-day, moment to moment, and he's very big picture. And so I don't know if that's because we're both creatives. And I think before we even had children, we had this really serious conversation about how like we just wanted to live a little bit outside the box of what's expected of us is like just what is deemed the paradigms that are deemed as normal. We didn't want to live in those paradigms. Just specifically when it comes to like work-life balance and like, you know, we're really one of my main priorities in our family and his too is like cultivating stillness and presence, like having a significant amount of time to not be constantly in the rat race or the hamster wheel or just doing or producing.
Yeah. Speaking of being outside the box, I heard an interview with you where you talked about doing residencies and like creating your own residency. And I think for a lot of folks, my perception is for a lot of folks here in the States, we don't fully understand residencies like some other countries do. So have you done a residency before?
I think I've applied to do them. Like I know, but no, I don't remember actually doing one. I know a lot of people that have, like a lot of my peers have, and then Liff has actually. I forget what country he did it in for like however many months. But yeah, it's when you are invited to a specific place. Usually it's finance. Usually you get some sort of funding or you get a grant or whatever, and you're invited to be in one place where you're like kind of free of distractions. Usually a different country or a different city or a different, you know, in Canada, Banff is the place where everyone likes to go do residencies.
Okay.
And which is kind of like, I don't know, going to wherever that ski hill is in Colorado, you know what I'm saying? Like or something. It'd be like doing a residency in Aspen. And yeah, you just like are free of distractions. You have this beautiful, usually you have some beautiful equipment, some beautiful studios, maybe some other artists around you, and you just create. And like that's all you do, you know? And maybe at the end you present your songs that you did. That's what I understand of residencies. Obviously, if it's a visual artist, it's different or whatever, but that's my limited understanding of residencies. Yes.
Yeah, I feel like in the interview you talked about like just creating one and not like applying for one. Can you talk more about that? Have you thought about that more?
So it was inspired by Liff went to, I forget what country in South America, but he ran into Bjorg and her crew. And they had, I mean, she's huge. She can probably do whatever she wants. But they were just picking a certain venue in a certain town in whatever country they were in South America and like hanging out for like a month or two. And like once a week, she'd just show up. All her gear stayed there and it didn't move. Like they didn't even do any other shows in that. And they would just pick one place to stay and cultivate relationship with and do shows. And he was just like, wouldn't it be great if instead of us bouncing around and like touring, we just could stay in one place and like cultivate like a regular something. And so I think that's what came out of it. Like me and him talking about picking certain places to live for like maybe 2, 3, 4, 6 months, whatever at a time. And really saying what kind of mark can we make musically here, whether it be creating with local producers or doing local shows or both. And I think we're kind of about to do that in Berlin.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's super dope. I have one more Mr. Lift question for you before we go to something else. Do you have a favorite or maybe not a favorite Mr. Lift album, but just an album from him that you're like, yeah, this one, I really like this one. This one really speaks to me.
It's interesting you say that because some I'm more familiar with than others, but I heard today was an album that I only became familiar with like basically kind of when we got together, which is way late. Like I didn't listen to it when it came out. But then when I started listening to it when we got together, I was like, this album is like, I don't know if it was slept on or not. I just know that like the kind of hip hop that I love, the kind of beats that I love, the kind of urgency that I love, the even like, for lack of a better word, like the hardness, or I don't know what, like I don't know how to describe it, but just Philly. He was staying in Philly when he made I Heard It Today, and you can hear that. Like
Mm.
it is a
Yeah.
different, it's sonically a different kind of record because of where he was and what he was dealing with. And yeah, I mean, I love all his records, and they're all really have beautiful moments at different times. Like Don't Look Down is really it makes you feel, you know, it takes you on a journey. But I Heard It Today is like, if you just want to, like, you know what I'm saying, like that's
Yeah. Yeah, that's a fantastic album.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Before we talk more about your music and this album Free, Pro, iomos, Joe, anything else you want to chime in on before we jump into this album?
I noticed that I think there's a similar dynamic between all of us who are parents and spouses, is that I think we're all in interracial relationships.
Oh, okay. Let me find out.
I think that's true.
iomos is not.
iomos is not. Yes,
But he
I'm
ain't a
talking
parent
about
either.
those who are
No,
parents.
sir. I got a black. My wife is a black queen, brother.
Yes,
There you go.
yes.
Yeah.
My wife is
But ain't
Indian.
nothing wrong with interracial relationships.
Yeah.
It's
So I was
all
just going to
bro.
ask, how has that been for you, navigating, an interracial relationship and where you live and things like that, and that dynamic?
I think that I'm really blessed, and I speak obviously from a position of privilege. I think I'm really blessed to be in places typically where, like, living with him in places where it's actually kind of normal.
Mm-hmm.
Like the people around us, you know what I'm saying? The people we know. In Toronto, I'm a part of an artist co-op. That's where I live, in an artist co-op, and everybody is like everything, 80
Beautiful.
80 units in one building, and you had to be an artist to get into the building. So that's where we live in Toronto, and it's just so we're blessed by that. I think that I'm always aware, though, when I travel, like I'm always looking for kids that, like, to us, obviously diversity and multicultural, like, just make up, even in the playground. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, yo, like when we were in the Bay, I was like, every kid in the Bay in the playground was mixed, like every kid. And I was just like, ooh, this is like mixed kid heaven over here. Like, it's not like everyone has to be mixed. It's just, I want to see diversity. And so that's something my eyes are always on, especially at this point. It's less about me and him and seeing other couples that look like us, but more about our kids, not just, honestly, just our kids not just being around just white kids. That makes me a little concerned. But that's just like, that's just an eye that I have for that.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you want to live in a nice neighborhood, depending on what country you're in, or if you want to, like, whatever, like, you end up all of a sudden it, like, gets more whitewashed. And that's a serious concern that I have, because yeah, I mean, it's so funny because I just want to say this. Liff and I were raised stereotypic, like the stereotype of like what someone would be raised like. We're like the opposite. You know what I'm saying? So, like, he had a mom and dad that stayed together, and like they worked their butts off, and he went to private school since he was like little. Like, they paid for him to go to like the best schools, and he was like around, like, everyone was supposed to go to Ivy League. They graduated from his really expensive high school, and so, like, he had like he was around privilege. And I, on the other hand, was not. And so I'm probably less comfortable around privilege than he is. And so, like, we switch hats a lot. And like, I'm just like
that's very interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So, like, we go to church, and I love church, but like our church, I'm always looking for the diversity in our church. And I'm like, yo, like, if we're just in a room, like, you know what I'm saying? And everybody looks the same. I'm like, this is kind of concerning to me. And like, and he's more comfortable with it. It's funny, but yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't. Does Lift get into church
because of me?
Because of you? Yeah, just
Because
like
of
listening, like thinking back.
I know
to
his music.
lyrics,
I know.
like, I
No,
can't see him in church.
No, you're absolutely right. I was raised in the church, and the church that we go to is not, your typical, I guess, stereotype. And I think he really rocks with the pastor and thinks he's cool. But yeah, you're right.
Is it like non-denominational or?
I do go to non-denominational churches in Toronto, but no, this one, we're all over the place. This one's not non-denominational. I want to say, yeah, it's a Christian church, but everyone's young and kind of more understanding the cultural, like, just what's happening today, as opposed to like old and out of touch. And like, the pastor's younger than us and a hip hop head, and like grew up listening to Liff and like Sage Francis and like New England cats. Like, he's just like, he's a musician, he's a head, and yeah, Yeah, there's a bunch of pastors out there now that are hip hop heads, like from time, like 20, 30 years hip hop heads.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a whole different world now when it comes to church.
That's cool.
That's
Yeah.
cool. That's cool. Well, I'm sure all these heads know about your album Free that came out not too long ago. Was it 2021? I want to say.
Yep.
Is that right? Yeah, yeah.
Crazy, crazy year.
Yeah, and you got a grant to do this album, is that right?
Did yeah, most of my albums in Canada. Thank you, Canada. Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's just it's very rare. Like we don't talk about that in the States.
Yeah.
At least I never hear anyone talking about that. It's just it's almost like a foreign concept to folks here in the States. So can you break that down a little bit before we get into the album of like why can you get grants to make albums? It's such a beautiful thing.
Well,
Yeah.
shout out to Ontario Arts Council who gave me a little bit of money for the record, and Fat Beats who also like topped that up. But in Canada, we don't have the infrastructure. There's more people in the state of California than there is in all of Canada. And so there's not really the infrastructure musically, and especially I'd argue for hip hop artists to really support ourselves like financially, either on our own or through labels that are going to infuse like the projects with some sort of like upfront money. So if it wasn't for the government actually setting aside funds to finance the arts, the idea is that the arts would not survive or be able to thrive alongside larger markets like American markets. So yeah, and then there's this concept called CanCon, Canadian Content. So on our TV and on our radio, and now I guess maybe podcasts or whatever, you have to have 40% like Canadian content offered if you're like a Canadian broadcaster. And that's really difficult if people aren't making music because there's no infrastructure. So it's like they kind of have to, if they're going to demand 40% Canadian content, they also have to. Which, by the way, once Drake came along, it was a wrap. It was just like, all right, we can do this 40% with one artist alone. But before that, it was like you really had to, yeah, it was cool. So, and it still is. And over the years, actually, every project I've ever done has been a grant.
Yeah.
It's good for me because I'm one of those people. I'm like in school, I was like the keener, you know what I'm saying? Like front of the class with my hand up always. So for me, having a grant means the album will get done because I don't want to let someone else down. But if I had my own deadlines that were just mine and like no other external motivation, it might not happen. So
Yeah.
I think grants are why I get albums done.
Yeah, that's dope. That's super dope. I really appreciate Canada for having that value, valuing arts like that.
Me too.
So with that, do they put restrictions on you, like what you got to talk about? Like, is there restrictions on there? Like, can you know what I mean? Can you be free to really talk about, like, if it's some issues that exist in Canada or like in Toronto? Is it like restrictions or things you can and cannot say?
That's a good question.
I haven't experienced that.
Okay.
I'm not saying that I don't know if other artists have. I think the restrictions that they put on things are more so like how you spend your money, where you spend your money, who you spend it on. It has to be on Canadian.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't give the money that they give you can't give to Americans. So it's like it has to be Canadians. And from engineers to producers to features to whatever. You can have American features on your record, but you can't pay them with the Canadian grant money. You know what I'm saying? So there's stuff like that they care about. And then there's some grant bodies that are more particular about like how many followers you have and how big you are, and other ones are more about the actual creative art versus like commerce. So there's those kind of things that you have to know your audience when you write a grant. But and obviously when you write the grant, they do care. Like your pitch and your proposal has to be kind of in line with I guess what they think is relevant at the time. But I just keep it my in life, I've just been like, I'm not here to bend myself backwards for someone else. I just keep it honest and real and simple. When I was in school, it was like the dopest thesis statement was one that was easily proven. Like you don't have to like reinvent the wheel. It's like very specific. And when I write grants, it's the same thing. It's like, let's just keep this simple and clear and everyone can imagine what the project is. And that's what it is. And yeah, so I don't know if that answers your question, but
That's dope.
it's a good question.
Yeah.
It's good that they don't restrict what you could say, though.
Yeah.
I'm sure that in this day and age, because things have changed a lot, Lord, I'm sure that there is something going on now with that and grants and what you say, but I haven't experienced that yet. Gotcha. I've also become probably less. Yeah, maybe I'm not that dangerous.
So ignorant, man. I'm imagining the United States giving Dead Prez a grant.
Right. Right.
They'll be like, what? I'm
Yeah.
paying for
No,
this?
but
Y'all coming at us? Like,
They'd be like,
nah, dog.
you're gonna have to pay that grant back with
Exactly. Hey, we
interest.
want that money back, dog.
yeah, so you have to ask that exact same question you asked me to some other cats in Canada that are,
That is
pushing the
hilarious,
envelope
dog.
a bit and see what they say.
So in writing this grant, Rel McCoy did all the production on the
Right.
album? Yeah. Okay. Was he written into the grant or did
Yeah.
he come later?
Actually, Moss was originally how I got the grant. It was me and Moss. It was our comeback record after At Last we were gonna do, and I had tracks. I had written to a bunch of them. It was really, I won't say the album was done, but I'd say it was like a good 60% when I applied. But then Moss was unable to kind of actually continue the project. And I tried for a while and I tried for a while and I tried for a while and it just wasn't budging. And so then I asked Moss how he would feel first if I switched to Rel, and then I asked Rel how he would feel, and then Moss and Rel actually met up, and they kind of like had a little like passing of the baton, like peace moment, like met up in person because they both live close to each other in Brampton, or they did.
Dope.
And then I wrote the grant body and asked them, and that's a tough thing to switch a producer for an entire project, but I just kind of made the pitch that like, you know, it was still in line sonically and the themes would still be the same and the content would still be the same. It's just, yeah. And so we were able to switch, which was good. It was a stressful time at the time, but then it worked.
Yeah. Now I want to ask you about the stress, but Moss, do you know if that's the same producer that did an album with Cool G Rap?
Yes.
That's the same. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought the sound had a
Oh
similar
yeah.
sound to
Oh
it.
yeah.
So yeah, he's dope. He's super
His
dope.
catalog is ridiculous. He's a genius. Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned it was stressful. Was the making of the music stressful, or was it just like other external things going on?
Both, man. That
Yeah.
was the toughest record for me to make. It took the longest, mostly because I was pregnant twice during the making of that record and had
yeah.
kids. I had cancer, you know, during that record. We moved all the time. Like I moved 5 times in like 2 or 3 years. COVID happened during the making of that record. Like it was just everything that I hated the process of making that record so much. And a big part of that was because I was making it on my own in like this little isolated bubble. I was barely even in the studio with anybody else ever, even Ralph. We got together at the very end for like 5 days, but most of it was digital. And I'm not used to creating music that way. And it was so painstakingly hard for me. Which is why it was really beautiful that once the album came together, and the only time I really started noticing this was when Merciless, and shout out to Rel, the music was incredible. He is a genius. But when Merciless started mixing it, is when I noticed that it was so cohesively, like sonically cohesive. And that was a miracle to me because I was like, yo, if you saw how we pieced that record together, I don't know how it was sonically cohesive. Like, I mean, yes, I had the same producer, but it was born out of a lot of, and in fact, when we marketed the record or did the promo for it, you know, the dude that marketed the record and you know, he did his best and he plugged it through the channels that he plugs things through. But I think that the real heart and soul of that record was kind of lost because it was like I was pregnant, like fully, like almost third trimester when the record dropped. You know, I literally was living with cancer when the record dropped. Like there was just so much going on that would have made for interesting conversations and interviews that just kind of got swept under the rug. But yeah, it was tough and it was really tough and it was, I was glad I saw it through. And honestly, it's probably my favorite record I think I've ever made. It's Lift's favorite record I've ever made. And I think that the least amount of people heard it. And I know some people heard it. Thank you for listening, but I think a lot more people could hear it.
Man, that's a story. You had cancer, 2 pregnancies.
Yeah.
Moved 5 times.
Fully hugely pregnant, dropping the record, like huge.
in a pandemic.
And there's more too in there. Like COVID, don't forget COVID.
Right. Yeah. The pandemic. Yeah.
Lost one producer, got another producer. Like
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. You ever thought about
I named the album Free because I wanted to feel free making the record.
Yeah.
I don't know if I actually achieved it. I think it was more like the goal.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know if we actually felt free making the record. But.
Yeah. How's your health now?
Great.
Oh, good.
Good. Yeah.
That's great to hear. Yeah. That's and you're not pregnant and
the cancer's gone.
Cancer's gone and you're not moving. Well, you might be moving to Germany, right? You know what you said?
We
Germany?
like we're on the road a lot, but yeah.
But
Learn to surrender to that.
yeah. Sounds like you're in a better place though.
Yes.
More free. You feel more free?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking. Yes.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
It's a
Do you
great
have a
album.
favorite city in Germany?
What your favorite city is?
Do you have a favorite city in Germany?
Well, I mean, Berlin's the one where most of our peoples are, and it's just
Okay.
like so kind of. I mean, it's a world-class city.
It is.
But I don't know if I've seen the other cities enough to be able to say, okay, this is why I like Berlin the most.
Okay. Yeah, I've spent time in Berlin and in Frankfurt.
Yeah.
I like both.
Yes. I need to get to know the other cities more, so I can't answer that question until I get to know the other cities more.
Got it.
So thinking about the album Free, is there a song that you feel like kind of describes all of that stuff that was going on in your life, like that describes all that or matches that feeling the best?
I mean, they all touch on it from different aspects. I think the one that kind of summarizes, they all touch on different aspects. None of them really, cover it all. But there's definitely aspects of each of those things in different songs for sure.
Yeah. Is there a song on there that you really like? Like even today when you go back, you're like, this is my joint.
Kind of all of them. but
that's what you're supposed to say right there.
No. That's actually not my usual. Usually with records, I have my favorites and I have but with this one, it's actually crazy that I actually like it. As artists, I know you guys know this. There's like this thing that you hear in your head when you're making a song, and it's what you want it to sound like. And oftentimes what ends up happening isn't necessarily what you heard in your head. And then you kind of surrender to the fact that, okay, this is what the song is. But with this record, 99% of what I heard in my head is how it ended up sounding. And that was like such a gift to me. Because it's really rare, actually. Usually when I listen to my old records, there's so much stuff that I don't like about them.
Yeah. That's cool.
Not the fault of anyone else, mostly just me. Like, I don't like the way I delivered that. I don't like,
Right.
But with this record, it's mostly what I wanted it to sound like. And I really directed it. I really like co-produced that shit for real. Production isn't like made the beats, but production isn't like the vision. And so but okay, one of my favorites is Home. Love Home.
Yes.
With Chad and his wife Sheil is on it.
Oh, dope.
First time they ever jumped on a track together, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's more like, I don't know if you'd call her a folk singer, but she's definitely a beautiful voice and up and coming. And first time they'd ever done a track together was the track that they did with me.
Yeah.
And I love, there's so many joints I love in there. But yeah, Home is one from 99, makes a lot of people tear up. I think it captured an essence and a spirit that is really hard to capture on a record. And I think it actually like put it in a bottle of New York City in 1999 in the indie rap scene. I think it bottled that experience really well for people, because anybody that was there that hears that song is like, oh man, like I had tears in my eyes. It took me there. So that's a good one too. But there's so many, and Rel is a genius. I can't talk about the record without talking about how much of a genius he is. He's just
he's super dope on the mic and on the beats too.
Yes.
Yeah, that from 99. You mentioned this about the cohesiveness. That's one thing I always appreciate about albums that I like, is how cohesive they are. I like albums that have that feel, and this definitely has a feel throughout it.
Yeah.
And having Wordsworth on that from 99 joint, Wordsworth is the man. So
actually, right?
Yeah. He's just so he's just so talented with the wordplay. It's just amazing, He's so smooth with it.
Good human being too, which that's another thing too, is I promised myself after At Last that I just only wanted people on my records that I would hang with in real life.
Yeah, that's dope.
Because that wasn't the case on At Last. And so that was really important to me. That people that I work with sonically are people that are my peoples.
Yeah. Another highlight is Let No Dream Fall. I think that's the last song I really like. I thought that was a great way to end the album,
It's funny you say that, because first of all, I want to say that's Rel's favorite track, number one. And second, I was going to put that as the first track on the record. It was going to be I wrote it in my mind as it being the opening track, like Whole Life Changed, but you think I'm going to sound the same? Like, it was going to be the opening track. And then it was actually Liff. Liff was the only one who walked alongside me on this record other than Rel, but Liff probably had a lot more weigh in with certain things just because he was always listening to it and always in my face every day. And he was the one that was like, "No, you got to set it off with From 99." He's like, "You can't do Let No Dream Fall. You got to do From 99." And we argued about it. I was like, "No."
Yeah.
But it worked out really well. I'm glad that he helped me with the track listing.
Yeah. So I think that could work as a first track too, though. But I like it as the final track. Like leaves you on this like inspiring note, you know. So yeah, dope album. If you have no idea what we're talking about, the album is free.
Yeah.
And if you've not heard the album, you need to go get it. It's by Eternia and Rel McCoy. And is it on vinyl? I feel like it's on vinyl.
It has a bunch of copies ready for you to buy.
Yes. So where can they find the vinyl?
I mean, if you go to my Instagram, so at the Real Eternia, and you click on my link tree, you'll find it there right at the top. But you could also just Google or go to fatbeats.com. Yeah. So,
yeah. Make sure you get that. Of course you can stream it, but why stream it when you can buy it and support the artist?
Physical copy.
Yes.
Like butterscotch vinyl too. It's so nice.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So make sure you get that. It's free. Well, I mean, the album's not free.
Free.
It's called free.
That's what Eclipse said too. Eclipse did the dopest. I have to say this. He did the dopest like retrospect mixtape for me before the album came out.
Yeah.
It was like, when I die, I want them to play this mixtape at my funeral. And on it, he's like, "It's not free. You got to pay for it."
Yeah.
But it's called free.
It's called free. Yeah, for sure. Fellas, Pro, Joe, iomos, anything you want to get in here before we celebrate some dope hip hop albums with Eternia?
No, let's celebrate them albums.
I did have a couple of questions.
Sure. Jump.
I think you quasi touched on this earlier, but do you do any producing at all? Or is it just strictly vocals?
Strictly vocals.
Okay.
Definitely have a very strong opinion about everything.
Okay.
Everything, from mixing to mastering to cuts to everything. I'm definitely the executive.
So you're Puffy-esque
producer hat I wear, but I don't make the beats, and I don't have interest in making beats.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And the other question is how did you come up with your name?
It kind of found me. It's so funny because if I had a chance to rewind time and do it all over again, I probably wouldn't have landed on the name Eternia. It was like, so the real story is in 1995, you could get a Hotmail account. And my brother was like, "Well, what do you want your @hotmail.com to be?" This is when everybody did Hotmail. And I was like, and we came up with Eternia because we loved He-Man. And it was just like,
I thought so.
Okay, I knew it. I knew it.
I was
there
just
had
like,
to be a He-Man reference.
Yeah, of course. And I was just like, center of the universe. What else am I going to call myself? I was like a teenager and I just thought I was the center of the universe. And then my rap name was Mothership. And I was a part of Demigods. So like Apathy and all that. And in the 90s. And every single time I'd meet people, they were like, "Well, how do we get in touch with you?" And I'd be like, "Here's my email." And I'd write down Eternia@hotmail. And they'd be like, "Yo, this is a way doper name than Mothership." So like after a couple of years, it became my rap name because basically by vote of the people. And that's how it happened.
That's so dope.
Yeah. Wow. I like it. Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Any last questions? All right. Okay. So we like to play this little game. Well, it's not really a game. It's a challenge. All right. It's a challenge called One Word. And my man Profam put together this little intro for it. And in the intro, it's going to ask you if you will accept the challenge. So listen carefully and let's see if
I suck at these, right?
It's going to accept the challenge.
I have anxiety right now.
All right, here's
if this is a test, I am going to fail.
It's all right. Here's a little intro for you.
Okay, party people in the house.
Let's get ready to rumble!
In this portion of the show, we'll show an assortment of hip-hop albums and challenge our guests to describe them in one word or less. Do you accept the challenge?
Oh, she accepts the challenge. All right. I thought
maybe... Wait.
Yeah.
1 word or less. If it's not 1 word and it's less, it's no words, bro. Like, what are you... Really, bro?
Yeah, because
the whole it's nonverbal.
No, it's not that. The whole thing is nobody can ever do it with just 1 word.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just the
clarity.
I just love when Pro sent me that intro, and he said 1 word or less.
Yeah. My heart was doing this. I was like, oh God.
Emotes don't count.
Him in with non-verbal cue.
Okay, USA.
All right. The first one for one word is Illadelph Half-Life by The Roots.
Yeah, one word is hard. Oh my gosh. Okay, I got this.
You can do it. We believe in you.
The first word that came to mind is critical.
Critical. Okay. You did it. You got that's one word. Why critical though?
Critical listening, critical content, critical for being a hip hop head, critical in my own personal life and like how it pivoted me with the way I heard like just what hip hop was to me at the time. A critical change for them because the record before was so different. They got more critical, if that makes sense. When I say critical, I mean like just more on their craft. And I love Do You Want More, but it's just very different. So yeah, just critical listening. It's critical a whole bunch of ways.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, we mentioned
rest in peace to Malik B, man.
Yeah, man.
And Militant, boy.
Yeah, he was dope. Next album up, we chatted about it a little bit already. This is I Heard It Today by Mr. Leth.
That's cool you pulled that one up. I mean, hard is the word I came up with. Hard. Yeah, and the reason why I say that is, I guess in relation to his other releases, to me, this was like just like kind of like a hard boom bap record. Like it hits hard. The content is hard. It's just this is what it is for me. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I Heard It Today is, and so I come up with the word hard.
Hard, yeah, I like that. It is a hard album. All right, I'm gonna give you a little break. I'm gonna go to Pro, Joe, and iomos first.
I was on a roll. Okay.
Yeah, but this you might need some help on this, or not help. You might need some time on this one. This is a really dope album. This is Black Star. All right, Pro. Let's give Eternia some time to think. What's your one word?
Go to IO.
You fail. Joe.
Go to IO. I'm gonna say vibes.
Vibes. Okay. Yeah. Right on. Excellent. I'm a little more harder on the co-host, so don't worry, Tony. We won't do this to you.
I'm not worried.
iomos, you have a word?
Lord.
That's all you gotta say. We know what you're talking about.
Yes.
That's my joint, boy.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
man, that's dope. That's dope.
Fire.
All right.
That fire, G.
Yeah, it was. All right, Eternia, what you got?
This word came to me the quickest out of all of them. Game changer.
Game changer. Okay, hyphenated one word. I like that. Yeah.
I was in New York City a lot around the time that album dropped, and also afterwards. And in New York City, that record was a game changer. If you were like in hip hop in New York City at that time, it was like before that album and after that album. I think it really signified just the whole indie rap scene in New York City. I wouldn't say it was spearheaded by Black Star, because also Co-Flow and Def Jux and all that, and but just like the whole Fondulum, Def Jux, Lyricist Lounge, like it was just like
the raucous era.
Yeah, man, the raucous era, like that album, Black Star, was a game changer. And maybe, I don't know how people feel about it that lived outside of New York City, but if you're in New York City at the time that record dropped and around that time, it was just, it was before that and after that to me.
Word. I want to do
any thoughts on the sophomore album? Just curious.
Oh yeah.
I have not properly taken it in to give you thoughts on that record, and I'm embarrassed to say that, but I'm gonna be honest.
Okay.
You don't have to be. No embarrassment here on what you have and have not listened to.
That face too.
What face? No, I just because man, I just don't like
to
these
album. What Joe said.
I don't know what that face was about, but in my mind I was thinking I don't like these like artist Puritans, like or like these Puritans on like social media where they're like, if you haven't heard an album, like, oh, you're not hip hop or you're not
Right.
this.
Right,
Like,
Right.
come
true,
on,
true.
man. We have
I'm
lives to
living life.
live, you know?
Exactly, bro.
It's funny
I'm
Yeah.
because
living
like
life, bro.
I was starting to feel
Right.
like guilty about like the people that I love the most that I call my favorite artists not hearing all of their albums. And then I just had to admit to myself like a week ago, I just had to be like, yo, like I'm a by like per album person. Like I'm an album by album, case by case person, not an artist by artist. Like I'm an album by album. And
same.
you know, yeah. So, but I think I was spoiled a lot coming up where everyone around me was playing the dopest shit around me all the time. And I didn't have to like reach for it myself because I was always in community and always hearing it. And then that's changed. And so that's changed a lot when it comes to my listening patterns because it's not like other people are just like, yo, let's all sit down and listen to this. And that happened a lot coming up.
All right. These next two before our final one may not be as known. So if you've not heard the album, it's fine. You can just one word on the actual artist. It's just fine. Okay. So this one is Dirty Harriet by Raw Digga.
I mean, I think that should be known.
Yeah, I think so too.
I mean, dirty. I don't want to like make it easy, but it is. It's just so dirty.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yes.
Or ridiculous. I could use the word ridiculous.
Ridiculous. All right, this one is much more underground. I have a hunch you've heard it though, but if not, I know you know these people. This is Rhyme Related by the Polyrhythmatics.
Oh, Polyrhythmatics. I think I had that on cassette, you know.
Oh, dope.
Yeah, I remember listening to that in like a Walkman. Yeah. Whew. I know the word I'm looking for. The word that I'm looking for is it's like a kind of like not multiplicity, but like something like that. Like there's a lot. Yeah, that's the word I'm just gonna go with. Multiplicity. Yeah. It's like there's so many different styles in that one group, and yet they had so much fun with being, I think, so different, to be honest.
Yeah.
And they just made really cohesive sounding music. I don't know.
It might just be me, but I feel like this album is super underrated. I feel like this is like Mr. Lift's I Heard It Today. Like it's such a great album that I just feel like it didn't get talked about.
Did you pick them because I did a track with Polyrhythmatics?
I did, yeah. I noticed that. And I just, I don't think we've ever showed this album before to an artist. Cool. And I love this album. So
yeah, it was, I mean, once again, New York City at that time.
Yeah.
That's a part of it. And Complex is actually the portal to all that, to me doing a record with those guys, and he's just dope. Yeah, dope guy.
It's a dope song too that you did with. All right, you're welcome. Last joint of the night, everyone.
We lost the files to a track we did together, and they came back and did it all over again. And they all came up to the studio and record on their own time. I wasn't even there. They just showed up and recorded their vocals again. So
that's dope.
That's love.
Yeah, that is love. That's dope. All right, last album. Everyone has probably heard it, plus their mama and grandma too. This is The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill.
Exhale.
Ah.
That's what
that
it
was
is.
Quick.
That was the
that was quick.
Exhale. Yeah. I think that was a collective exhale for a whole lot of people, specifically women, but maybe not just women. But yeah.
Yeah. Dope album. Dope album. Eternia, it's been a pleasure having you with us tonight. This is a hip hop show, so we always give some shout outs. So we'll give some shout outs on our end, and then we'll turn it over to you for the final shout outs, if that's cool.
Cool.
Okay. All right. Pro.
Yo.
Who you gonna shout out tonight, man?
Man, I ain't been here in a while, man. I'm gonna shout out the crew. I'm gonna shout out everybody here, man. The Boom Bap Chat crew, Joe, Bo, Stowe, Io, of course, Till, Sister Eternia. I'm glad that you still rocking. We can definitely give you a shout out. You been dope. You still dope. Stay killing them like you do. Mr. Lift as well. Shout out to you and your whole family and everything. I appreciate you coming through.
Word up. Thanks, bro. Joe, who you want to shout out tonight?
I'm gonna shout out to hip hop, man. Just bringing us together and just to be able to talk and chop it up from, across the globe pretty much is just a beautiful thing. And so I love talking about it, and just a pleasure to be amongst you guys and gal.
Word up. iomos?
No. Yeah, man, it's been a minute since I've been on this boy, Joe. So being back here is like a beautiful thing. So yeah, I'm gonna shout out the crew. Beau, Stowe, Till. You know what I'm saying? Is that everybody? Beau, Stowe, Till.
Yeah, and the four of us. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Pro.
And Pro, my brother. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? From another mother. And
You know it?
yeah, shout out my mentor tonight, man. That's why I was kind of late getting on here trying to get stuff done. So shout out my mentor. Shout out Toronto. Shout out you know what I'm saying, Direct, DJ Versatile, and definitely shout out Eternia. You know what I'm saying? Much respect to you. Thank you for taking the time to be on here. Shout out Mr. Lift, y'all beautiful family. And yeah, man, you family. So keep coming back whenever you like, you know what I'm saying? You know, put something out. Know that this is a platform where you can promote it on. So yeah, peace. Just want to say peace.
Yeah. Thanks,
For sure.
iomos. Likewise, I want to shout out hip hop. I want to shout out Canadian hip hop in the house. Full effect. Also want to shout out Elzai and Oh No, because they have an album coming out and they're two of my favorites of all time. So I can't wait for that. Shout out to an Ohio MC named Dirty Needles, who's super dope, and he's gonna be on the program in 2 weeks. So if you don't know about this guy, Dirty Needles, go look him up, go find his music. It's pretty raw and funky. So it's pretty good. So we'll be interviewing him in 2 weeks. And shout out with all the chaos and just all the terrible stuff going on in the world. Shout out to the people out there that are going against the grain, bringing people together, and you know, appealing to people's humanity and not, you know, messed up corrupt systems and politicians and all that, but are trying to bring people together. So shout out all you out there doing that type of work. I appreciate you. And of course, shout out to Mr. Liff, and shout out to you, Eternia. Thank you for, you know, sharing so much great music over the years, and for sure coming here tonight and, you know, sharing some of your story and some of yourself with us tonight. So shout out to you. Appreciate you. And with that, we'll turn it over to you for the final shout outs.
Man, I just, first of all, I'm super humbled and grateful, and you guys have really lit up my, like, all the things that inspire me to want to do this. Continue doing this, like just being on this show. It was such a pleasant surprise to see all of you. And from what I understand, you guys haven't been here for a while, you know, Pro and Marcus. So it's like the fact that you're here now, this interview today.
Yeah.
So shout out the show for having me. Shout out. Thank you. It's really humbling, actually. And so on a bigger note, but carrying with that exact theme, is just people in general that hit me up and that encourage me or tell me what the music meant to them, or just anything that just keeps me wanting to write and create, because the world has changed so much. And Liff and I often feel like, man, do we even have things to say that we know we can rap, you know, but do people even want to hear it anymore? And I think the answer that we've come down to is yes, but it's because of people like you guys and other people out there that hit us up. I guess mostly on social media, but not just on social media, that allow us to feel that fuel and that fire, to continue to be a voice in hip hop, and that we've earned the right and a spot in hip hop to be a voice in hip hop. And that's something that we shouldn't let go of, because we worked so hard and earned that right. So yeah, I want to shout out every single person who in recent years, especially the years that I haven't been as active musically, has encouraged me, including yourselves. And yeah, that's it.
Cool. Well, on that note, as always, we say
peace.
Peace.